UFO meaning is unidentified flying objects. UAP meaning is undefined anomalous phenomenon. In the Pacific and the European theaters during World War II, round glowing fireballs known as Foo Fighters were reported by Alden and Axis pilots. Some explanation for those sights include St. Elmo's fire, the planet Venus, hand inertia from oxygen deprivation, and German secret weapons, specifically rockets. In 1946, more than 2,000 reports were collected primarily by the Swedish military of unidentified aerial objects over the Scandinavian nations, along with the isolated reports from France, Portugal, Spain, Italy and Greece. The objects were referred to as Russian Hall and later as ghost rockets because it was through the mysterious objects were possibly Russian testers and captured German V-1 or V-2 rockets, but most were identified as a natural phenomenon as meteors. Many scholars, especially those arguing for the physical UFO hypothesis, have noted that UFO characteristics reported after the first widely publicized modern sight by Kenneth Arnold in 1947 resembled a host of science fiction tropes from earlier in the century. By the most accounts, the popular UFO crash in the USA began with the media frenzy surrounding the reports on June 24, 1947 of a civilian pilot named Kenneth Arnold who described seeing a group of bat-like aircraft flying in the formation at the high speed near Mount Rainier that he said were moving like a saucer would if skipped across water, which led to headlines about flying saucers and flying discs. Only weeks after Arnold's story was reported in 1947, Gallup published a poll asking the people in the United States what the flying saucers might. Reported by historian Judge Him. A majority either had no idea what they could be or thought that witnesses were mistaken, while visitors from space were not initially among the options that anyone had in mind, and Gallup didn't even mention if anyone survived brought up aliens. Within weeks, reports of flying saucer sights become a daily occurrence, with one partially famous example being the Roswell incident in 1947, where remains of a downed observation balloon were recovered by a farmer and concentrated by military personnel. UFO enthusiasts in early 1950 started to organize local saucer clubs modeled after science fiction fan clubs of the 1930s and 1940s. With some growing of to national and international prominence with the decade, in 1950, 3 individual books were published. Donald Cassius, The Flying Saucers Are Real, Franz Colich, Behind the Flying Saucers, and Gerald Hart, The Riddle of the Flying Saucers. Each Guy Lazit proposed that the extraterrestrial UFO hypothesis was the correct explanation and that the visitors were in the response of the detonations of atomic weapons. These books also introduced American to as engineer puts it, the crusading white whistle blower dedicated to breaking the silence over the alien region, over the unfounded flying objects. Media accounts and spectacularly ran rampant in the US, especially in the connection to the 1952 UFO scare in Washington. worried that genuine incursions by enemy aircraft over US territory could be lost in a maelstrom. Cookie analysis of UFO reports. A Tenderex survey in August 1957, 10 years after the Arnold incident, reported that over 25% of US public believed identified flying objects that could be from outer space. The cultural phenomenon showed up within some influential works such as 1959 publication of a flying saucer, a modern myth of the things seen in the sky by Charles Hung, a Swiss physicist and psychologist. Starting in the 1947, the US Air Force began to record the investigated UFO reports with the project sign looking into more than 250 cases from 1947 to from 1949. It was replaced by Project Grudge up through 1951 in the 3rd US Air Force program from March 1952 to its termination in the 12,618 sites of UFO as part of what is now as Project Blue Book. In the late 50s, public pressure mounted a full of declassification of all UFO records. But the CIA sense was not universal in the CIA. However, as the fellow NICAP official Donald D. Keoheu wrote that Vice Admiral Rokos Hilanketo was the first director of the CIA, wanted public disclosure of UFO evidence. Official US Air Force interest in UFO reports went on Itasius in 1969 after a study by the University of Colorado led by the Edward Buchanan and known as the Condon Report conclude that nothing else came from the study of UFOs in the past 21 years that has added to scientific knowledge that further time investigating UFO reports can be justified.